Dublin, a Viking story. Hey everyone, did you know Dublin's name actually comes from Vikings? It's fascinating to think about how much influence they had on this city. Yep, it's true. They called it Dyflin, which means black pool. This name was inspired by the dark tidal pool where the River Poddle met the River Liffey. Today, Dublin is a bustling city, but its Viking past is hidden everywhere in its streets and stories. You can still find traces of their presence in the architecture and local traditions. The year 841 is super important in Irish history. It marks the establishment of the first Viking settlement in Dublin. That's when the Vikings, tough warriors from Scandinavia, took over Dublin. They were not just raiders, but also traders and settlers. This wasn't just a quick visit, it was the beginning of something new. The Vikings established a thriving trade hub that connected Dublin to a vast network across Europe. The Vikings arrive 841 AD. Picture this, long Viking ships powered by strong rowers appearing on the horizon. They weren't just after gold and jewels, they wanted land, power and control of the trade routes. Dublin back then was a small but important town. The Vikings saw its potential, a good harbour and access to all the good stuff in Ireland. Their arrival was a big shock to everyone on the island. A tough new home. Life wasn't a picnic for the Vikings in Dublin at first. They faced numerous hardships and obstacles as they tried to establish their new settlement. The land was rugged and unforgiving, and the weather was often harsh and unpredictable. The Irish people who already lived there weren't too happy about these new neighbours. Tensions ran high as the Vikings encroached on their territory, leading to frequent confrontations and disputes. There were lots of battles and friendships were put to the test. The Vikings had to constantly defend their new home from attacks, and the Irish were determined to protect their land from these foreign invaders. Besides the fighting, the Vikings had to get used to a new place. They had to learn how to navigate the unfamiliar terrain and adapt to the new environment, which was very different from what they were used to. Ireland's weather and landscape were very different from their homes in Scandinavia. The lush green hills and stormy coasts were a stark contrast to the fjords and forests they had left behind. They needed houses, food and ways to protect the land they had fought for. Building sturdy homes and establishing farms were crucial for their survival, and they had to be constantly vigilant to defend their territory from potential threats. Viking power. The very mention of these words conjures images of fierce warriors clad in armor, wielding axes, and ready for battle. But the Vikings were more than just fighters. The Vikings were great fighters, but they were also smart planners. They meticulously strategized their raids, often gathering around campfires to discuss their next moves, using maps and other tools to ensure success. They built strong forts using the building skills they learned back home. These forts were not just for defense, but also served as bases for their operations, showcasing their architectural prowess. They created trade routes connecting Dublin to other Viking areas. These routes were vital for their economy, allowing them to trade goods, ideas and culture with other regions. Over time, Dublin became a busy Viking city. It transformed into a bustling hub of activity with markets, shipyards and artisans all contributing to its growth and prosperity. It was a hub for buying and selling, building ships and even making art. The Vikings were not just warriors, they were also traders, builders and artists, leaving a rich cultural legacy. You can still see signs of the Vikings in Dublin today, from artifacts in museums to ancient ruins and symbols scattered throughout the city. Their presence is still felt. Their arrival changed Irish history forever, leaving a mark that's still here hundreds of years later. The Viking legacy in Dublin is a testament to their influence and the lasting impact they had on the region.